Hey everyone, it's your favorite rogue Chirpy, here again with another video. This time, I'll be doing commentary over a plus 23 fortified ruby life pools. This is in the 10.0.5 patch, so the Fan the Hammer nerf is in play. Despite that, and also having a messy second half of the run, I ended with 109k DPS overall. I'll go over everything that you need to do in this key to be successful, as well as point out how the Outlaw Rogue rotation has changed for the worse, but on the bright side, this still shows promise that Outlaw can remain a top contender in high content. I'll go over my talent build and reasoning behind it, as well as itemization, and I will also show my DPS breakdown for you guys so you can compare it and see what yours should look like as well. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to stick through to the end so you can be the best rogue or M+ player you can be. Now onto the video. This is the build that I decided to use for the key, and the reason behind it is that now that with the new class tree changes, we can take our numbing poison, and we can take gouge if we want, or other things like that. I decided to just take numbing poison, tricks, and then work down the defensive section here. If you're doing a key below a 20, you can drop these talents and instead go numbing poison, fleeted footwork, deadened nerves to make your way down here so that we can take cold blood. And if you do take cold blood, you can macro that onto dispatch to make it automatically used. You don't have to think about it. I decided to take the defensive route because a 23 is a pretty high key. I do use Vile and Feint quite a bit, and any amount of energy that I can save is worth it. So that's the reason that I went these talents. On this side of the tree, it's exactly the same as it was in the previous patch. I did tinker with doing sepsis for a little while. I tried that in a couple keys, but I found that I was still running out of energy a lot, and that's mainly due to the new Fan the Hammer nerfs. So I feel like Blade Rush is still the optimal choice for your talents here. For my itemization, these are the items that I used. These are my stats: 36 crit, 6 haste, 27 mastery, 25 burst, 12% avoidance. I got really lucky with avoidance. I have avoidance on my chest and my trinket, as well as the avoidance enchants where applicable. I have heavy verse, minor crit gems, as well as a primary stat and versatility gem on my other slot. And I'm using a Storm Eater's boon and a controlled current technique. I just got this trinket yesterday. It is a lot better than my whetstone is currently, so this is what I'm going to be using instead. So to start this key off, we are going to be pulling this Juggernaut into a smaller pool than usual. This is a bolstering week, so we're trying to make sure that our tank stays alive, because this Juggernaut does do a lot of tank damage. So we're just going to fight this pull here. We just get it set up. Everyone is funneling damage onto this Juggernaut to try to make sure it dies first. It has about triple the HP of all the other mobs. So it is very important that we are getting as much damage onto this Juggernaut as possible. We're trying to make sure we kick the ice shields to make sure that we can interrupt the tectonic slams from the Earth Shapers. The Earth Shapers do a massive amount of damage, especially on fort weeks, but luckily their damage is preventable. There are also the Terra Sentries, which put these little brown swirlies on the ground. It's very important to get out of those. Luckily, as a rogue, if you are stuck in one, you can always use Cloak before it goes off, and you will not take any damage. On to the next pull, I set my focus target onto Star, and I pull this other Chillweaver in for our tank. And the reason I set my focus target onto the Chillweaver is to make sure that I can kick the ice shields while we're focusing down the Earth Shapers, because the Earth Shapers are the most dangerous mobs in this pack. We are still trying to evenly cleave, but the Earth Shapers with the tectonic slams, again, massive amounts of damage. You can see right there the Terra Sentry that I was hitting had a shield on it that is purgeable. If you have a purge in your group, we have an enhancement shaman, so he purges it, and it had like a 1,000,000 HP shield on it, so that purge is worth 1,000,000 damage. Might not show up on the logs, but it is big value. We move on to the next pack. I'm going to distract this other Juggernaut so we can pull Dragheart in with the Whelps over here safely without pulling the Juggernaut as well, which would be Mega Terror. When you are fighting Dragar, you need to watch out for two things. One is the swirlies on the ground that he puts down during Steel Barrage. Just move out of those. And the other one is Blazing Rush, which is that frontal he does. It's a big charge. Make sure you are behind the target. He has a pretty wide hitbox for the frontal, so even being on his side can be a little dangerous. You can see I'm very, very cautious of it. I take a couple steps back even though I know I'm behind him, just in case. I get knocked up by storming there, but using the grappling hook macro, which you can find in the Discord or in the macro video on YouTube, I can instantly grapple hook back to the ground when knocked up by storming to avoid being in danger. This boss is a little bit of a joke now on fortified weeks, so we are just going to Play this as normal. On chill storms, if we are low, we are going to faint. That way, we reduce the damage that we take when the chill storm explodes. The hailstorm does very, very minimal damage. And we just run out the chill storm if we get it, and then we grapple hook back in to maintain as high uptime as possible on the boss. When the whelps come in, your job as a rogue is to make sure you use tricks to get aggro for your tank. Unfortunately there, we did lose our feral druid. He was a little bit too hasty, but that happens sometimes. It's fine. We're going to get a B-res up on him, and we will be good to go. We're just going to continue AoEing these mobs down and continue on with the fight. We're about to get another set of whelps soon when she phases. Hence, it's going to be the same thing. On the first set of whelps there, I used my boon. You can see it did a massive amount of damage. And we just need to maintain our rotations here. You could also watch a lot of the times now whenever you don't have the broadside buff, which is the combo point generating buff from Roll the Bones. We end up at 5 combo points whenever we send a pistol shot. So whenever you're at 5 combo points after sending a pistol shot, you shouldn't be spending your combo points yet. You need to either send a second pistol shot proc, so if you have 6 bullets, you would send both, or if you get an ambush proc after your first pistol shot, you would send that instead. That way you get a full 7-point finisher. 6 or 7 is okay to send on, 5 not so much. After beating it, we take the dragon upstairs, and we are not doing the Thunder Drake in this run. We do run into some shenanigans with it later. You'll see it's not a good time, but luckily we were able to keep up such a good pace that it didn't make that big of a difference, and we were able to still time the key. So we're going right side here, and we didn't realize that our tank was behind, so we pulled the Scorchlings a little early. I set my focus kick onto the Cinder Weaver here, and we are trying to still kill all of these even to avoid the bolstering. Once this guy gets a little low, I switch my target over to the highest HP target to make sure that we can try to cleave down as evenly as possible, and we continue going. The Cinderbolts did get a pretty big nerf, so they're not a one-shot anymore, but it's still good to reduce the amount of damage that your healer has to heal. That way the healer can also do damage as well, speed up the key. This pull is a little bit unfortunate. I use my boon, and the Destroyer gets pulled out of range, so it is what it is, but we're still able to continue going. On this Blazebound Destroyer, it does have a lot more HP than the other mobs it's paired with, so this week's specifically for the bolstering, you want to make sure you're funneling your damage onto the Destroyer. We have an enhancement shaman that's single target funneling onto it. We have the feral that's doing it as well, putting all of his big bites into it. And we are trying to minimize the amount of time that the bolster has on it, because the Inferno will do an insane amount of damage if you get too many bolster stacks on them. Right there, we did do the Scorchlings a little early. We should have saved them for the Flame Gullet for more funnel damage, but it's okay. We're using Lust on this anyways. What you want to do here is treat it like the last boss. When you want it to be casting a Flame Breath while you're getting it below 50%. That way it doesn't start pulsing out its massive AoE damage. It only starts pulsing after the Flame Breath when under 50%. So once he gets under 50%, we send Lust, and we are just trying to Zerg this guy down before we die. We get through it, and we're on to the next pack. Same thing applies here. I apply my focus macro to the Star caster, and we are funneling our damage onto the Blazebound Destroyer. We are trying to still keep this as even as possible. Very important to get the kicks on the Cinderbolts, and our tank is managing the Flame Dancers as well from the Flame Dance. So that is very, very nice. I don't have to use any kidneys on it. I don't have to use any blinds. I can save that for emergency stops other places. Our enhancement shaman is making sure that he's purging the Blazing Glory there, which happens after the Flame Dancer is killed. If you don't have a purge, it's okay. You just need to make sure that you avoid the swirlies that come out, because those will probably one-shot you. Again, same thing, Blazebound Destroyer. We're just knocking it down. I always set my focus target before going into the pull, just to make sure that I never have to swap off of my main target, and that helps me put all my damage where it needs to go while still making sure I'm getting the stops I need to get. I distract the patrol there to make sure that it doesn't get too close to the other pack, so we can just get this pack down nice and clean. You can see right now, when I use a pistol shot proc, it only goes up to 5 combo points. It's a little bit less than ideal, but I made pretty good adaptations to previous keys, and I got a little bit more used to it. Here, we ended up butt pooling this Thunder Dragon. Not ideal. We call for a quick wipe after we get this Flame guy dead. And we go back up to continue pulling the rest of it. Our timer's still healthy, so we're not too worried about it. On our way back over here, we make sure we hug the right side to not pull a Thunder Drake while we do this other final Blazebound Destroyer pack. When you get the Living Bomb on you, you can actually put it over the mobs to knock them up, and it interrupts some cast. It might interrupt a Flame Dance. It's going to be less damage taken by your team, which is very ideal. If you're low on HP when you get the Living Bomb, you can either cloak the damage, or you can use Feint if you don't have Cloak up to try to mitigate the damage that you're taking. We move on, and somehow we ended up butt pulling the Thunder Dragon again. Everyone is dying. It's not a good time. I'm able to get out with Vanish, so I break combat. Everyone else comes up, and we're ready to go for the boss. There's a couple different strategies you can use on this boss. We, as a group, have decided that our optimal way of doing this is to bait the ad spawn far away, and then we come backwards to bait the meteor behind where we've already been, so that way we don't get too many fires. Here we end up messing up this next meteor. We end up moving forward. We killed the ad a little bit too fast, so we get a bad meteor boulder here. So we just pull the boss way past it. That way we can continue to save space and not be stuck in fire. Here we bait the meteor back again, and we are focusing down this firestorm. Very important to kill it before its second inferno so you don't get killed and your healer can actually keep everybody alive. And also make sure that you get kicks on it. We usually have the tank get the first kick, or it doesn't really matter, but it's just like if you're in a pug group, you can say, hey, you always get the first kick on this, I'll always get the second kick on it. All that matters is it doesn't get the cast off. We bait the boulder behind and we move forward. Here we're moving way ahead of where the fire is to make sure the ad isn't directly on top of the fire, so we can bait the boulder behind us and keep the area as clean as possible. You can see here I'm holding on to Boon, and the reason for it is because we're coming up to a bigger pool after this with the Tempest Channeler, and it is a very large AoE pool, and we need to really make sure that pack dies very quickly so that way we don't get too many Tempest Channeler casts with lightning storms, because that does a massive amount of damage, especially on fortified weeks, which you want to be avoiding, and killing that pack is higher priority than killing that boss faster, at least on this week. We kill the boss, we realize we're down %, but we tell our group, hey, it's alright, we're just going to go back for something at the end, and we'll make up that %, we just got to keep on going. So we get into this pack, I wait for everything to get nice and centered, and I send my Boon, and we just start doing big damage to this channeler. During the channel, if you find your HP getting low, press Cloak, you won't take any more damage. Ideally, before you start the channel, you press Feint and you press Vial, and you could pretty much self-sustain and live through the entire thing yourself. We continue getting the pack down. It's very important we got that channeler down first, so that way we didn't bolster it for the storm, because that would most likely be just instant death. Here we're calling a kick rotation on the flame channeler. It takes 2 people to kick it, so we're just doing a simple rotation of 2 people kicking this channeler to make sure nobody gets blown up. We pull it over the side here because we like to do the pack with the next Tempest Channeler, the big pack with the named mob right before the boss first, before we do the second pack. So now we just did a small pull, we should have all of our cooldowns back up, and we could send on this high channeler Rivali. I get another 5 roll here, which is very lucky. And so one thing that he does here is that Tempest Storm Shield. You need to kill that shield before the cast finishes, or your entire group is wiped. You cannot live the explosion. I mean, you could live it with Cloak, but you're going to be the only one alive, so there's no real point in living it. And he absorbs shields off of the ads that he spawns. You can purge the shields off with, if you have a priest, you can use Mass Dispel, and then he won't get as big of a shield or any shield at all. Or our enhancement shaman is using purge to make sure that he takes as little shield as possible. You could also use the Blood Elf Racial, the Arcane Torrent, to purge all of them at once, but it's a 2-minute cooldown, so you can only do it on 1 wave. Still worth it to use it, though. We go into this next pack. We should be focusing the Tempest Channeler down here because it is the highest priority, highest damage target. However, we end up putting a little bit too much damage onto the Flame Channeler. We also lost our healer there, very unfortunate, but we were able to send a B-Res right away to make sure that we could live through this next lightning storm. I get kind of low, a little bit spooky, but our healer tells me that we're all going to be fine, so I don't bother pressing my potion Or sorry, I don't bother pressing Feint or Vile at that point. The cast was already pretty much done, and I trusted in him to keep me up. We go on to boss here, and we position this boss in between these two pillars to make sure the dragon always lands near us. If you play out towards the ledge, the dragon can land in so many different places, and it makes it really hard to move around, and makes it really hard for us to actually do meaningful damage to the dragon. When we get the flame spits here, we're trying to place them on the pillars, so that way the rest of the area is completely clean for the last phase. It's important to try to phase this guy around the same time, so you want them to both be around 55%, 52% before the dragon comes down and does a frontal. So right here, we're able to milk a bit of damage out of this dragon before he does the phase, and he starts spamming fire spits like it's nobody's business. So we get him down to 30%, which is a 20% extra damage that we weren't expecting to really get. And that really made it so that way we're able to get as minimal fire spits here, because the more fire spits you get, the more dangerous the fight is. We get that done, we avoid all the fire puddles on the floor. If you run over one of these fire puddles, you will get the ticking AoE and you will drop more fire puddles. So it's very important to avoid those. If you do get one, you can cloak it off, but make sure that you're not near any of your teammates so you don't kill them. Here we have 1 minute and 23 seconds left, and we're trying to decide where the closest mob is that we can go kill. And I think our tank recommended that we just go to this guy instead of taking the 30-second RP back with the dragon. Because you can go back to the beginning of the dungeon with the dragon over there. But we just decided this is probably the best bet. It's the closest mob. But this unlucky strike is absolutely insane, and I don't think that this mob should be pulled ever. He is way too strong. Like, this shockcaster should be deleted. This is absolutely ridiculous kind of damage that this guy puts out. We get 2 deaths just off this one mob, but we were able to time it with 3 seconds left. I'll be showing you my details on the screen here, so if you want to compare your damage and see if your breakdown is similar to mine, then you'll be able to get a decent idea of how well you're doing with your rotation if you have a very similar percentage breakdown that I have. This is the breakdown of the key. Most of it you can see is still Blade Flurry, then I have Pistol Shot, Dispatch, Ambush. These should be similar, but I should probably have Dispatch in the second place. I probably overcapped with Pistol Shot a couple times due to the Fan the Hammer nerfs and being at 5 combo points instead of 7. So I'm pretty sure I probably spent some Pistol Shots where you used to not have to. So that's probably why that's there. Storm Eater's Boon, I only got 7 casts of it, but I made them count. The way the controlled current technique trinket, it doesn't really show how much damage it actually does. This is just a proc, but there's also a buff that it gives you. So I have that as uptime as well. It gives you more attack speed. More attack speed is more energy regen. It feels a lot better, especially with the nerfs. I feel like this trinket is mega value now. And I also have the Flaring Cowl, which is my Spark Helm, and the Aeronog Ring, which makes up almost 3.5 million damage that I've done. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe, follow the channel, check out the Discord. Another member of the Rogue community has started a petition to try to revert the Fan the Hammer nerfs. Reversions have happened in the past with some of these nerfs, and I feel like this is one that is warranted. So if you're interested in trying to reverse the Fan the Hammer nerf and instead take like a 1 or 2% DPS aura nerf, so that way it doesn't change the feel and the flow of the gameplay, please go ahead in the description, click on the link, sign that petition, and if we get enough signatures, maybe Blizzard will listen to us when we say, hey, this does not feel good, the flow of the class is poorer now, and the Fan the Hammer nerf affects so many more things in our rotation and our entire class identity that just makes it not feel good and smooth anymore. It is still very playable. As you can see, I still did a decent amount of damage in that key. I topped the meters, and it's still a very viable spec, but the feel of the spec overall has changed. So if you're interested in trying to change that, sign the petition below, and try to get as many signatures as we can. Send it to your friends. And I hope to see you guys soon. Check out the stream. I'm streaming almost every day at twitch.tv/chirpytv. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye.